Is the concept of coming back to life after death real? First of all, we are not talking about superstition, because the definition of death is actually different. Initially, Western medicine defined death as the cessation of heartbeat and breathing. However, later on, Western medicine also realized its mistake, as some patients without heartbeat and breathing could still be saved. Later, brain death became the standard, but there are differences between traditional Chinese medicine and Western medicine. The story we are going to talk about today is shared by a Guangdong netizen named Shangshan de Lao Hu. In 2011, this netizen was driving for a leader in his team. That year, the leader's mother was celebrating her 80th birthday. Originally, they did not plan to hold a birthday banquet because the elderly lady was not in good health at the time and had been living in a nursing home. Later, some friends from other places suggested that they should hold a celebration to bring joy to the elderly lady. If they really didn't want to do this, they could celebrate at home. These friends were very lively in the past, and they themselves had not seen each other for a long time. The leader thought about it and arranged a family banquet. That morning, netizen Xiao Hu brought the elderly lady back home. Around 10 a.m. his brothers also came with gifts. At that time, netizen Xiao Hu was responsible for receiving guests. After lunch, the elderly lady welcomed everyone in a wheelchair, and the nanny pushed her back to the room. A group of people drank until after 2 p.m. and then went to the courtyard to drink tea. At this time, the nanny rushed over and whispered to the leader. The leader's face changed after hearing this, and he quickly ran into the house, while asking Xiao Hu to contact the dean and arrange for a doctor to come over. At this time, everyone must have guessed that the elderly lady might not be well. Then, after Xiao Hu contacted the doctor, he greeted the guests in the courtyard and went to the elderly lady's house to report to the leader. The leader said that the doctor knew that they had all gone out, and then he was alone in the elderly lady's bedroom. About half an hour later, 2 ambulances arrived, and the doctors and nurses from the hospital all came. As for the netizen, after they entered the bedroom, they stood aside. At that time, the dean and the doctor examined the elderly lady and brought some instruments. In the end, the conclusion was sad and resigned. After all, she was also 80 years old, and the leader should not be too sad. But the leader was very filial to his old mother, and she raised him alone. How could he be so shocked he fainted on the spot? What I want to say here is that before the leader became rich, he had a wife and a son. But due to some misunderstandings, his wife and son have been living in Shanghai. So when the leader was unconscious, the house was in a mess. Then netizen Xiao Hu let people take the leader back to his bedroom. At this time, the leader's brother knew that the leader had also fainted and ran over to show concern. Later, the doctor gave the leader an injection, and more than 20 minutes later, the leader woke up. After waking up, he started crying, saying that he didn't expect his old mother to pass away on such a happy day. Just as the people around were comforting the leader, there was a middle-aged man in his 50s. This person Xiao Hu only knew that he was from Beijing and just wanted to say, "Brother, you don't have to worry, I know a friend who has great power, I'll ask him, but I don't know if he will give me this face. If he is willing to help, the elderly lady may be saved." After saying this, the whole scene was very quiet, and everyone looked at the dean and the doctor next to them. The dean also knew the identity of the group of people around him. He dared not be negligent. He shook his head directly and said that the elderly lady had no signs of life and decided to leave. But after the leader heard his friend's words, he wanted to try no matter what, and asked his friend to make a phone call quickly. The phone call was made by that person going out, and he came back quickly, saying that someone was willing to help and try. But now he is in Sichuan, and it will be 9 o'clock tomorrow morning before he can fly to Guangzhou. Now arrange some things and let you call him back personally. When the leader heard this, he quickly dialed back with that person's mobile phone. Here, I heard that the leader has been saying, okay, thank you, and so on. After hanging up the phone, the leader arranged for Xiaohu to go out and buy white candles, as many as possible, no less than 100, and a straw mat. After Xiaohu came back with the things, he saw a pit dug in the courtyard, and the leader called a lot of people to come over, standing outside, standing inside. The leader asked Xiaohu to put the straw mat in the pit, and then arranged for people to carry the elderly lady out and put her on the straw mat. Then he covered the elderly lady with a blanket, sprinkled a lot of rice on the blanket, and inserted 12 candles next to the elderly lady. Then after lighting, let the people behind surround and ensure that the candles are not blown away by the wind. If the candles are about to burn out, replace them with new ones. So after arranging these, the leader just remembered that it was time to have dinner, so he arranged for everyone to eat something casually. After eating, some friends left, and there were 2 people who were very close to the leader, as well as the person who made the phone call. So a few people stayed up all night like this, and Xiaohu also didn't sleep. He went to the airport early in the morning and received a man in his 40s, carrying a briefcase, who claimed to be surnamed Gu, and didn't say anything else. When he arrived at the leader's house, Mr. Gu looked at the elderly lady and said a word. Fortunately, he came in time. Then he arranged for people to separate. I saw Mr. Gu take out a bag of needles and a small bottle from his bag. First, he pricked many needles on the elderly lady, and then poured a few drops of water-like substance from this small bottle into the elderly lady's mouth. Then he stood up and said that she should wake up in an hour. But the elderly lady is old, and this time only saved 3 to 5 years. The leader here listened, first thanked, and then arranged for his friends to accompany Mr. Gu to the room to rest. He himself was outside guarding, and then asked Xiaohu to go in to serve tea for them. When Xiaohu went in, he prepared the things and stood aside, ready to serve them at any time. Then he heard them chatting. Some people didn't believe it, saying that Mr. Gu, this doctor, has examined many times and determined that the elderly lady has left. Can you really wake up with this needle? Then Mr. Gu smiled and said that our traditional Chinese medicine and Taoism have no talents left, and it's not the same system as Western medicine. What is called the divine, the 3 souls in the 3 souls and 7 spirits are called the divine. The 3 souls are divided into Taiguang, Xuangling, and Yujing. Taiguang is the master of life, Xuangling is the master of wisdom, and Yujing is the master of preferences. As long as the Taiguang of the elderly lady is still there, I said he can wake up, he must be able to wake up. Later, they chatted a lot, very profound, and this little tiger also didn't understand, but more than 40 minutes later, the elderly lady really woke up. Later things are not mentioned, everyone is very happy. Mainly seeing Mr. Gu's hand, Xiaohu was shocked, my God, coming back to life after death. Later, on the way to send Mr. Gu, they talked a lot. This little tiger also gained a lot, especially the understanding of traditional Chinese medicine. This does not mean that traditional Chinese medicine is not good, but the medicinal materials cannot be compared with the past. In addition, we Chinese have a bad habit, that is, to keep a hand, and you will eventually lose the essence. In addition, some families pass on only to men, not to women, not to the inside and not to the outside. So what if your own child is a fool due to various reasons? The real skills have not been passed down, coupled with the impact of Western medicine. This kind of traditional Chinese medicine is really declining. But it really has to be said to be profound, and profound, Western medicine really has to take a step back. To be honest, no matter whether the story is true or false, I feel very refreshing. It's right, traditional Chinese medicine is the best. Well, see you in the next story.